Hey guys, Tim Bratz here. I'm sitting down for another episode of Spill the Beans with my boy Ron Phillips. Ron flips north of 500 houses a year, and I met him in a mastermind a few years ago. He now invests heavily in apartment buildings. He's also got a mortgage business he just launched. He's expanding on a technology business and a software company that he's growing. He has a ton of stuff going on, but he's also one of the guys who has one of the best lifestyles I've ever seen. He really, really knows how to design businesses around his lifestyle and around his time, so that way it doesn't eat him up. So you're going to love this episode. We're going to dive into things real deep with Ron. Ron Phillips, how you doing, brother?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. Dude, appreciate you coming in, grabbing some coffee or orange juice with me. Cheers. So, all right, man. So I told everybody a little bit about, like, you got multiple businesses going on. You got the turnkey business.
Yep.
You're buying apartment buildings now too.
Yep.
You got the software business and mortgage business, a lot of things. Let's first talk about, why did you get into all those different things? I remember when I first got started in real estate, I wanted to be like vertically integrated, right? Like I wanted a brokerage, and I wanted a construction arm, and I wanted the property management arm, and I wanted a mortgage or a lending arm, and then I wanted to obviously have the investment side of flipping properties and all that stuff. And then I just realized like there was just too much noise.
Yep.
And eliminate all of it, focus on the one or two things I'm really, really good at, and double down on that. And I started making a lot more money when I started doing that. Tell me about the process of why you're expanding into different arms of the business, and does that take you away from anything, or how does it not take you away from things?
Yeah, so I've been doing the same thing since 2005, basically, the turnkey thing. I've been doing that since 2005. It's really easy. I have a fantastic team. So how do you do that? Well, it's having a fan. You know this. I mean, how do you buy thousands of doors? You don't do that. I mean, Tim doesn't go do that, right? There's a team that's behind. Well, that team functions pretty much by themselves. So I don't have to do that much in that business, which gives me a lot of time to be able to do other things that I want to do. And so I started buying apartment buildings because I have a whole bunch of investors, and so raising money wasn't going to be a challenge.
Yep.
And so I went in and learned that business, started buying apartment buildings. And then I was literally in a mastermind group, and I was listening to a guy talk about these 37 or 38 businesses that he had, and I was like, I mean, it hurt my head for a second. Yep. And then he said something that stuck with me, and he said, I start a business, or I acquire a business, when I start spending, I think he said $100,000 or $200,000 a year on that product or that service. I just go acquire it because it's costing me money not to have it.
Fascinating.
And I said, and I literally, as soon as that happened, I thought, I already had a pain point because I had been through 4 mortgage brokers. They all sucked. And I couldn't get anybody to do the volume we were doing in any kind of volume. Yep. Really well. And so I'm like, man, I'm sending not 100 or 200,000. This is millions of dollars of business I'm sending a year to people who I don't even like and aren't doing a very good job. So I just decided I'm going to go find somebody who can help me figure out how to do this, bring it more in-house. And that's how I got into the mortgage thing. But crazy thing is, up front there was some startup to it, but it has its own team. It runs itself now as well.
Dude, you said something just like, I went and found someone who can help me on how to do that. Like, a lot of us, when we're thinking about, oh, hey, I want to launch a mortgage company, it's like, what goes onto my plate that I need to go and do in order to go and launch a mortgage company? The big pivot, which I know that we were talking offline about this, but I know that you're doing it, and I know it's been a pivot for me as well, is like not figuring out how Tim does it, but who can I find to go and implement that new business? Well, who can I find to go and take that and run with it?
Yeah, like who's already doing the business, right? Yep. Because I know we send loans to mortgage people, and I know generally speaking, but I don't know how to start a mortgage company. So why would I? If you want to, you were talking about earlier, how do you do all of this stuff, juggle everything? Well, I don't. That's the answer. I don't juggle all that stuff. I go out and seek out these people who can help me, and then I partner with them in some kind of a fashion, and and I create something with the help of another team outside of my own team. So this team is unaffected over here. As a matter of fact, actually, their lives are better now because we've solved a problem that was a big pain point in our business.
Yep.
And so then that's running out there, and now I have my time back again, right? Something I learned several years ago is that when I lost my first company, I decided I am not going to give away 7 years or not one more year of my life away from my family, my friends, the things that I want to do, chasing something that might blow up.
Might go wrong, yeah.
I'm not going to do that anymore. And so now I go and I try to figure out how do I do this without affecting the time that I've dedicated to my family, to my friends, to my passions, to whatever it is I want to do.
So how do you do that? So give me some tactical things that like ways that you go and implement that you bring on joint venture partners to run this business?
Absolutely.
You white label other people's businesses and then just
so my core business, it's mine, and it's like my golden goose, right? So nobody gets to touch that one. Other than that, I will partner. And this year specifically, I've gone after strategic partnerships that allow me to do what I'm good at and allow other people to be good at what they're doing, but that we can grow together.
Yep.
And so I go out and I look for the people. And because I've invested over the last, I don't even know how many years, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars surrounding myself with people who are really high caliber, top-notch people. Now I know a lot of folks, and I can reach out to my base and go, hey, network, who does this thing really, really well? And the cool thing is within 30 minutes, I get 5 names of people who are really good in that particular business.
Yep.
And then I just reach out to them. And at that point, I'm trying to find somebody who fits my core values, that I'm going to work well with, that my team's going to work well with.
Yep.
And generally speaking, if I can find that, the rest of it works out really well.
Love that, man. Now, I think especially coming from, I see a lot of people flipping houses, or they got their primary business in whatever their business is. It doesn't even have to be flipping houses. Doesn't have to be real estate. Could be anything. But I think we all start out as a solopreneur, right? Like we can't afford to hire anybody, so we're doing all the work ourselves. And then you hire an assistant, then you hire somebody else to help out with sales or management or operations or whatever. And it gets to a point where it's very hard for people to kind of flip the switch of going from I own 100% of everything and control 100% of everything to then bringing on these other people, giving up some of the control for the growth, right? Because growth and control work inversely from each other. But then also giving up some equity in their business. It was a tough pill for me to swallow, to give up a bunch of equity in my businesses initially. And then essentially when I was bringing value to somebody else's business and I expected them to give up equity in their business, I was like, damn, I'm a hypocrite, right? Because I don't want to do it in my business, but I'm expecting them to do it in their business. And I was like, all right, for the growth of everybody, as we can all grow together, it makes sense to just give up a little bit of equity.
And I think there's a myriad different ways that you can structure that so that it works for whatever your tolerance level is of that, and still works for the people that are on your team that need. I think one of the main things people do as a solopreneur, as they're trying to grow and scale into a business owner, that puts a cap on their growth, is not allowing their people to grow, right? So they either purposefully or inadvertently put a lid on the growth of people because they're scared they're going to take something away from them and go off.
Start their own business, right?
When the reality of the situation is, if you put a lid on somebody, I guarantee you they're going to leave.
Yep.
Right? So the idea is to grow and expand, and to have your team grow and expand with you so that everybody can win along the way. And in order to do that, to grow bigger, you do have to give up a little bit so that they can have a little bit, but so that everybody can grow. And I'm telling you, man, that's a game changer when you get a team that is 100% invested behind you, and they match your core values and they match your purpose and everything else. Oh my gosh, you're only really capped by the imagination that you have and the different channels that you want to go into. Really
love that. Now, I 100% agree. My team, like, we went through some crap, obviously, in 2015 and 16 and stuff as we launched the management company. We were doing the turnkey stuff and got into apartments initially. There were a lot of learning curves, but we've been through all of that, and we know what it's like at hard times. Now we know how each other work in good times. And, I'm investing in them significantly. Just like you said that you invest. I think a lot of times we invest in ourselves to be in these high-level mastermind groups and these networks. I think it's just as important, though, to send your team out to that kind of stuff, so that way they get the growth
especially when
as well.
they ask, because you'll get to a place where someone in your team will go, man, I'd love to go hang out with these people that you hang out with. Take them, because you don't want to lose that person. That's a person who wants to grow. They want to become more. And if somebody's asking, that also means, generally speaking, they're capable of much more. And it's your job as a leader, it's our job as leaders, right? To be able to see more in people than they can see in themselves, and to be able to pull it out of them and show them, look how far you've come, right?
You ever have anybody in the right person in the wrong seat in your organization?
100%, yes.
What
Because
was that like?
before I even knew that was a thing, I just thought if you hired somebody good, they could just do whatever it was, right? I didn't realize that I had hired some people who were living in literal hell because I had stuck them in a place that they didn't like. Now, I knew that there were seats that I didn't like, so I just hired that stuff out, but I didn't realize, I don't even know how I didn't realize that. Because I knew I didn't like certain things, right?
But there are some people who like the things that maybe we don't like to do, right?
Love the things that we don't. And so, I've 100% done that the wrong way, and then I've done it the right way.
How do you figure out if you have the right person in the right seat, or how do you figure out if they're going to be the right fit for that role that you're putting them into?
So we use the predictive index.
Okay.
And man, that was a game changer for us as soon as I learned that, because if you're familiar with it, the top graph is who they are. The middle graph is how they feel. And you can literally see in a graph, oh my gosh, this person's in the wrong seat. And they hate it. And they're going to quit. I mean, you can clearly see it. If everything lines up in the middle graph to the top graph, all you have to do now is just not be a jerk, right? Just be a good leader and let them do their thing, right? Which incidentally is another thing I think leaders don't do very well, is let people do their thing, which in turn means you have to be able to be willing to let people fail, just like we did, and teach them and coach them post failing without beating them up.
And you hear a lot about that in leadership books and all that kind of stuff, like let your team fail. And 100%, I screwed up a lot early on, and it would be hypocritical to hire somebody and then they mess up once and you berate them and you kick them out of the organization or whatever. But how many times do they mess up before you actually go through that process?
Well, if you have the right person in the right seat, generally speaking, once, there shouldn't be multiple screw-ups.
Right. Usually
that means you have either the wrong person or they're sitting in the wrong seat. Because if you put a guy like me in a detail-oriented position, and I'm going to repeatedly screw that thing up because I have zero attention to detail. So whose fault is that? That's the leader's fault, because I've either put them in the wrong seat, or I've hired somebody that fundamentally doesn't fit my company's core values, my company's purpose. All of those things are my fault. It's not the individual's fault.
I mean, John Maxwell, he's got a quote that I live by, dude. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything, right? If you went and actually Emmett Smith came out to my event a few weeks ago and spoke, and one of the takeaways was like, dude, their coaches like pound into their head as high performers that when you lose, you take 100% of the responsibility. When you win, you give 100% of the respect to the team.
And you can see that the people who in the well, I don't really watch very many sports, but I like the NFL. The guys that people really, really like and admire that's what they do.
Exactly.
Right? They're the ones who are loved both by the players, the fans, the coaches. They're the people who do that.
Yep. So from a standpoint of all the different businesses, are there businesses that you like better? How do you differentiate? Obviously, if you're spending a certain amount of money on a certain business, you're going to look at potentially launching that business or bringing that in-house, right? Are there some businesses that aren't worth it? Are there some businesses that you like better than the other ones? Because like how do you differentiate that?
I'll never do management.
Property management.
Yeah, the margins are too thin.
Yep.
So I'm not going to just bring something in-house just to bring something in-house.
You're spending a lot of money on that.
Because we farm out tons of management, but I don't like it. I mean, I just don't. I genuinely don't like that business.
It's
now,
tough.
I
It's
love
a tough business.
really good property managers. Don't get me wrong. I love them. But I suck at it, and I don't want to do it. And the margins are so skinny in that business, and it's a thankless job. So I try to empower.
And there's a lot of liability in it too, man. Like you are the punching bag for the owners, for the city, for the tenants, like everybody. When I had my management company, it felt like I walk out of the ring every single day, man. Just people punching you from every direction.
So we try to empower the management companies, and we try to tell our clients, look, be kind to your management company, man. They literally get abused all day. If you're kind, dude, you're going to get the treatment from those people, because you'll be like one of maybe 10% of the people who actually are good to those human beings, and they're people like everybody else is, right? But there's a business that, I mean, we started one in 2005 and then grew it and then sold it in 2007 because it sucked. It was a horrible experience. I'll never do that one.
That was mine. I launched mine in 2016. I think I sold it in 2019. I couldn't sell it fast enough. I mean,
great margins on sale.
For sure. And that's one of the big benefits, I think, in starting a management company is like, there's no real cost to get it up and running, right? No. You just need to get going, and once you get these contracts, they're sellable assets.
Yep.
And you can actually create a significant amount of value and equity in the business because you have these contracts that are tangible, that are financeable, that are saleable, right? Like there's a lot of things that you can do with that. But man, like going through the process though is very, very difficult.
And then scaling is a whole other thing.
Until you get up to that, like tens of thousands of units, then maybe it can make a lot more sense. But it's hard, man. It's a hard business.
So, you have to look at the business fundamentals and say, I mean, is this worth bringing in house? And how am I going to bring it in house, right?
Yep.
It's like the mortgage company, like going and actually opening up a mortgage brokerage made zero sense.
Right.
Partnering with a correspondent lender, that made all the sense in the world, right?
So what does that look like? Explain that to me.
So, of course,
this is for your turnkey business. You guys are moving, 40, 50 houses a month, right, on that side. And so you're financing.
This year we could probably sell 800 to 1,000 if we could get the inventory.
I know, right? It's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's wild. So essentially, these buyers, you're financing their purchases of your turnkey properties, having a lot of issues with other mortgage companies. So you guys decide to bring that in-house. What does it look like from a partnership standpoint? And how do you know that these guys that you're partnering with don't completely crap the bed too?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I did a bunch of due diligence on that to begin with, because there's a few things that you have to have in order to make this work. You have to have dedicated processing team. You have to have dedicated underwriting team. You have to be able to control your AMC to some degree, right?
Yep.
Those things are non-starters. If I don't have that, then I can't do this. Then the other pieces you need to control are just the team members, right? You just need people who can actually do the business and do enough volume. So there's human capital, but there's also systems, processes and systems. What I needed was a company that would allow me to help them build the systems that integrate with my systems so that we could scale. And the company that I found was like, yeah, man. Because I've already got the software built. That's the other company, right? This thing runs my entire company.
Yep.
And it communicates with all the people who are involved in one of those transactions transparently. So I just needed to connect that with a lender that would allow us to be able to work with them seamlessly, and it has been phenomenal so far.
Awesome.
Because the other ones, I don't have any control over them, and I have a little bit of control over this one. I have control over who we hire as the LO, the processors, to some degree the underwriter, but a little bit less control over the underwriter. I mean, I could tell the correspondent lender, hey, this underwriter sucks, we need a new one. But I'm not in the hiring process on them like I am the processors and the lenders on the other side. It just gives me, if there's a problem, I can call the owner of the company, of the owner of the correspondent lender, and go, hey, we have a problem here. I've isolated it to this piece in the process. We've got to fix this. And it gets fixed.
Yeah.
Which in the other companies, I mean, I can do a whole lot of business with them, but I still can't call the bank president and say, hey, we got a problem right here. I need you guys to help me fix it. They don't care.
Are you requiring all of your buyers to go through your mortgage company then?
I can't require them to do that.
No.
I think that would be a liability train wreck. But we've set our pricing based on
you all
we're really
discounts
good.
Or something if they
we're
go
really good, right? And you're competitive with everybody else. But the difference is, if you want to go with your own lender, you're outside the system. It's going to be more work for you, right?
Yep.
Go inside the system. It's just going to be easy.
Yep.
This is easy button over here.
Yep.
So
which
it's
most
up to
people
them.
who are buying turnkey are people
They
who
want
have
easy.
cash. They don't want to do the work, and they want the easy button. So that's probably a path of least resistance for them anyway. So, what are you seeing from a standpoint of? I know the single-family turnkey stuff is great from a transactional. Dude, you got the teams in place, you got the processes in place, and it is like on autopilot for you. From a standpoint of like single-family versus multifamily, why are you buying single-family yourself still, or are you
Only
really
packages.
focused on you're buying packages of single-family, and then really you're spending a lot of time? I know you just bought the 90-some units in Mississippi. Why have you transitioned over to multifamily? And give me the good and bad of what you see in multifamily versus what you see in single-family, both now and what you kind of foresee moving forward.
Okay, well, the main reason that I love multifamily so much is that I can control the appreciation of the property.
Yeah.
Not entirely, but because of the way that the appraisals work on it, and it's a function of the net operating income,
Yep.
I can actually control that to some degree. And in the single family world, right after the crash, I mean, it's Russian roulette with appraisers. You get who you get.
Yep.
I mean, the appraisal can be completely wrong. They can say your house is a 2-bedroom and not a 3-bedroom, and you can send it back. You send your message back through the AMC, and they send you back a middle finger. I mean, it is absolutely out of control.
Yeah.
The government completely overstepped and screwed up. Actually, I'm going to say inadvertently, because I think the majority of the people up there are just dumb. I think they're really educated, stupid people. And
They're educated. That doesn't mean they're smart, right?
no, some of the dumbest people I've ever met in my life were some of the most educated. But they prolonged the housing crisis because of what they did, right? When you take an appraiser, you tell them you cannot appraise anything north of what the comps are right after the banks dump all of their properties onto the market. That means we're going to have an exacerbated time of low property values.
Yep.
And in a lot of markets where there wasn't actually a problem, where there was plenty of demand. Builders couldn't build, and now you're seeing the fruits of it, right?
Yep.
Sorry, that wasn't a side, but man, the government pisses me off. They caused the problem, then they interject themselves to try to fix the problem they caused, and they screw it up worse, like they're doing right now. I mean, the last time we got into a problem was because we allowed or we forced banks to give money to people who shouldn't have loans to buy properties.
Yep.
And what are they doing right now, Tim?
Yep.
It's as if they have to be stupid. They have to be stupid. Because if they're doing that on purpose,
or they're malicious. One of the two.
I mean, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and just say they're dumb.
Both are unacceptable, but one's at least.
I'm not even sure if it's fixable or not,
Oh man.
Tim, because it seems like everybody that runs is dumb. I don't know.
So it's fascinating that it's primarily because of it's predictability of value of the property.
Yeah.
On single family, it's based on the comparable approach. What's a house down the street sell for? And just because that one was poorly run or poorly operated, or it was all beat up, it adversely affects the value of your house that is perfectly in.
Or somebody just decided to sell it for less.
Exactly.
All of a sudden,
it was
mine's
inherited,
worth less.
or it was exactly.
Yeah, I mean that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Right. Versus the income approach on the multifamily and commercial real estate, it's very predictable, right? What's the income minus the expenses? Meaning there's a net operating income. The more you can increase the NOI.
Yeah. What's the cap rate? The only thing I can't control is what people are paying as far as the cap rate.
Yep.
But I can do things to my property to correspondingly,
Yep.
right, as the cap rate fluctuates up and down.
Yep.
I have none of that control in single family. But man, I own a lot of single family, and they're doing great right now.
Yeah.
So, and I think we're gonna have a little bit more of a run. So
and let's talk about that. What do you think? Where do you see the market going over the next 12 to 24 months, both for single family and multifamily?
Well, we have a substantial supply demand. It's completely upside down for the reasons that I already mentioned. We just haven't built enough. Our population has continued to increase, and we didn't build enough property.
Simple economics.
Because of the government. Period, end of story is because of the government. They didn't build enough property. Now, in addition, we have a supply chain shortage, and
Big time.
I mean, the lumber supply is consolidated into very large corporations now. Until somebody jumps in and opens up some more, mills, prices of lumber isn't going to come down.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I don't see anything changing within the next 12 months. I think the prices are going to go crazy still, and then I think maybe we'll see a flattening. But I think there's a lot of people out there who have thought now for like the last, 6 years. I've been in mastermind groups. People have been preaching doom and gloom.
They've been saying it for a long
I'm like,
time.
Eventually they're going to be right.
Yeah.
But
I mean, everything's
Good
cyclical,
Lord.
right? Like,
but I mean, people are saying at the end of the, in 2021, towards the end of the year, we're going to have this flood of foreclosures. They said that last year as well. I don't see it happening. Banks are fine. They're overcapitalized. They don't have a financial problem right now. This is not the same thing that happened before. I don't see any reason why a bank would foreclose on millions of properties. In addition to that, I can't see the current government allowing the banks to foreclose on those people.
Yep.
So my guess is that the banks are going to take all the forbearance, put it on the back of the loan, and go, hey, let's start over again. And a lot of people are going to start paying.
Yep. Buddy of mine who owns a big data company. He showed me so kind of a crazy. So I sat down with him. He's out of Cleveland. I sat down with him a few weeks ago actually, and very respectable. You would know him. Very respected in the community. And so he, he's like, hey, you remember The Big Short? You've seen that movie, right?
Yep.
So when Ryan Gosling's character goes in and talks to Steve Carell's character in his office and like gets the house of cards essentially all built up and stuff. He's talked to him about the mortgage delinquencies, how many people are seriously delinquent in their mortgages. And at the time, he's like, we're at 3.5% right now. When this hits 6%, or we're at 4.5%. When this hits 6%, he pulls out one of the cards and everything collapses at 6%. So my buddy gave me a list of, top 50 cities in the country and what the mortgage delinquency is currently of people who are seriously delinquent, essentially on the mortgage forbearance type thing, across the country. Dude, on the top 50 cities, there wasn't a single one that was less than 8%.
Yeah, I believe that.
Seriously delinquent. There were some. Colorado Springs was 20% seriously delinquent.
I believe that.
People Vegas was 15% seriously. So one of two things is going to happen. Either, if this lifts, then essentially there's going to be a flood of foreclosures at the end of this year, early next year. But there's no way the current administration allows that. There's just no chance it's going to happen.
Nor do I think so. Look,
I mean, they've already proven that they're very comfortable printing money, right? So
Right.
like, why not just print more money,
Look,
give it to the
and-
banks,
and let's-
put it on the back end of the loans.
And let's take a look at this for what it is, right? The government shut the economy down. The government told the banks, hey, let's do forbearance on all this stuff. I mean, I know people that the banks actually reached out and were like, hey, why don't you do a forbearance?
Yeah.
And
Let's
like,
just do it. I don't
what-
need to. No. Let's just do it anyways.
I'm serious,
Yep.
dude. And on the multifamily side, same thing. I have a good friend of mine who you would know. And they were like, dude, you should do a forbearance. They basically solicited a forbearance.
It's wild.
And he took it. And then he was trying to get a Freddie Mac loan. And they brought it back around and were like, hey, well, you're on forbearance with this property. You
Yeah.
can't do that. He goes, well, I'll pay it. I have the money.
Yeah.
They told me I should do this.
Yep.
They like basically told me I needed
Yep.
to do this. He goes, I didn't need to do it. He's like, what do I need to do? Just pay it. I'll pay it.
And so how did he get out of it?
He didn't even have to pay it. They finally came back around and were like,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's actually true. That's what I'm saying. It's like you
Shit makes no sense.
everybody is saying that there's and listen, dude. As soon as COVID hit, I was at an event and the event went from like 450 to 250. It was like the night when Trump made the announcement.
Yeah.
Next day, 250 people. Next day, 125 people. It was insane. Right after that, the real estate world as we know it, like everybody's butt puckered so hard.
Big time.
Yeah, I was on like 8 different mastermind calls. Everybody was saying,
Yep.
oh my gosh, in 6 months, we're going to be cleaning house and
Yep.
all this stuff. And I'm like, based on what?
I'll tell you what,
Exactly.
they're cleaning house 6 months later, just on something totally different than what they thought, though. You know,
I'm just like, look, guys, you guys,
they thought there was going to be a lot of
I
opportunity.
know
There's
you've been
not.
preaching for 4 years that the real estate market's going to collapse, but it isn't collapsing right now.
Yeah.
Let's say, and I actually, I listened to another guy who had basically the same statistics. Like, look, if 50% of these things go onto the market, that gives us, instead of 1 month's supply, it gives us 6 months supply, which is, it's barely over normal market.
Yeah, exactly. It's all right.
And there's a lot of markets around the country where that will sink the market. We were just looking at statistics about California.
Yep.
You have 15 to 20%, half of 15 to 20% go onto the market. Oh, dude, that's going to upset
Yep.
that market. You do that in Florida?
Yeah. A normal market.
I mean,
Right.
is it really going to affect it that much? No. Same thing in Texas. No.
Yep.
Why? Because the people are leaving California and moving to Texas, and there's not enough properties.
Yep.
So they're treating a problem nationally that isn't national, it's local, just like they did before. The difference this time, I think, and I could be wrong, the difference this time is that before the banks were heavily leveraged into these crazy subprime loans that were psychotic.
Yep.
In addition to that, these people who are going to get foreclosed on, they have equity in their properties.
Yep.
Why would they get foreclosed on?
Yep.
They can list them on the market and sell them if they get into real trouble.
Exactly.
We also know it's going to take months for the foreclosure process to hit because millions of properties hitting the actual counties.
Yep.
They can't process that many.
Yeah.
The only place in the country that's probably even capable of processing that many is like Vegas and every county in Florida.
Yeah.
Because they did it last
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But other than that,
You get it all
nobody's
filtered
prepared
out.
for that kind of
Right.
a deal, right? I don't know, man. I don't see that happening.
I agree. I agree 100%. I think from a macro standpoint, like the whole market, the whole country was hurting 10, 12, 13 years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
Today, it's going to be very micro. Like Northeast is going to hurt. California, the West Coast is going to hurt.
Let's just be fair. They're already hurting.
We saw the
California
stats.
is already hurting.
Yeah, they're getting
and that's
crushed
another
right now.
thing too. They say that. So we have our clients come to us and they're like, man, there's the vacancy rates are astronomical and people aren't paying their rents. And I'm like, where are you getting this from?
Yeah.
They're like, well, it's all over the news.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well,
Here's what we're
maybe in
collecting.
New York.
Mhm.
But I mean, I've called every property management company that we have. They're all collecting 90% plus.
Yep.
Like and all of my products, I'm like, I have a pretty good cross section. I don't have as many properties as you do, but I have a pretty good cross section of properties.
Yep.
Our people are paying.
Yep. I think if if the tenants are screened, if the property's taken care of, and you got good management in place, dude, we're collecting rent on all of our stuff. There's a handful of properties that are more C class that we didn't have good management in place. We brought good management in, and now we're collecting big time.
And look, the C class, they need more help. But there's help there if you just help them get the help.
Exactly. The new management company's sitting down with each tenant, helping them get grant money, helping them get any sort of subsidies that are out there, and they're collecting rents.
Yeah. Now, does that last long term? Well, I don't own any properties in the places that are still shut down.
Right.
So the people are getting back to work.
Yep.
Right. As a matter of fact, the one property that we just closed on, I think one of the reasons that it sat there, other than the fact that the financials were so screwed up nobody could make any sense out of them, is because it's by casinos, and casinos got hit really hard, right? They shut down. It's like being next to bars and everything else, right? But they're up and running. They've been up and running for a long time. They're hiring and they're expanding right now, probably with hundreds of millions or billions of dollars of our tax dollars that Trump and Biden have given to them over the years, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's everybody speculates, man. If you ask these economists back in February of 2020, what do the next 12 months look like? They would have been 100% wrong within 30 days. And everybody's like trying to speculate today. And I asked you that question just because I want to know what you're seeing in the marketplace, and I think you have all 100% valid points. The reality is, dude, there's going to be good deals and there's going to be bad deals in every market, right? Like, if you have a sound buying formula and you have sound investment principles, dude, you will do good deals. If you go and buy crappy deals, then you're going to get your money attitude, no matter what's going on with the market.
Yeah, I mean, I get scared for people who buy. One of the things I get asked a lot is the Airbnb and the vacation market, and I'm like, look, those can be great deals, but you better buy on solid fundamentals that aren't vacation.
Exactly.
If you can buy an Airbnb that the numbers pencil on regular rent,
exactly.
Well then, Airbnb it and make 3x or 4x.
I tell everybody the exact, like the student housing, the short-term vacation rentals, things like the corporate housing and corporate leases and all. Hey, that's all great, but I would never underwrite the property with those numbers. Right. I would underwrite the property with a standard all-American 12-month lease agreement. Yep. And if it pencils at that, then go in 2x, 3x, 4x your NOI, because you can do that, right?
Because you can pivot.
Exactly.
And one of the things that we learned in the last downturn, if anyone listening was in the real estate market during the last downturn, is it took 5 years to hit bottom. It wasn't like we came off a cliff like the stock market did. The stock market came off the cliff, and now everybody else thinks that's what the real estate market did. It didn't do that. And so it was comical. I was like, at the beginning of 2020, when everybody thought 6 months later we were going to have all these foreclosures and they were going to be able to clean house, I'm like, guys, that's not how it works.
Yep.
It literally trickled last time. Now, granted, the government made the trickling happen a little bit more, but the banks were literally like dumping properties. But they dumped properties over 5 years before we hit bottom. And everybody was buying. It's crazy thing is like in 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, during those years till we hit bottom mid 2012, everybody was still making a lot of money on these properties. But if you actually look at the chart, 2009 is not the right time to buy. 2010 is not the right time to buy. 2011 is not the right time to buy. It's 2012.
Dude, I got my first apartment building I bought in 2012, 8-unit building for $30,000. And then I bought another 8 units for $40,000. I bought it's hard to even, when you're buying at that, and then you look at today's numbers, you're like, I'm going to wait for the market to pivot. Or like, you hear a lot of people saying that. Like, it's unfathomable to think that values were that low at one point in time.
And I don't think we're going back there.
No way.
I don't think
we ever will. So like, if you find a good deal, you go and take a good deal down. Like interest rates, you just got 3.59% on your 90-unit apartment building. Like, it's almost free money. And if you
it is free money.
It is.
It is
free
money.
What we're used to.
I mean, they say They say that the inflation rate is 2% or sub 2%, which is complete BS.
Oh,
There is no way. It's got to be between 4 and 8%.
100%.
So I'm literally it's free money.
Yeah.
Literally it's free money. And over the next several years,
even more.
not
so.
only will it be free money, it will be making me money
Dude,
because those dollars that I pay back on that loan that's fixed, I'm going to pay it. I'm going to pay the loan off in dollars that are worth less
Yep.
than when I bought it.
Yep.
So fixed debt.
I think that's a very profound, and actually I was planning on doing a video about this after this, but let's talk about that. This is some statistics I have. 1960 to 1990, the value of a dollar depreciated by 75%. From 1990 to 2020, the value of the dollar depreciated by another 50%. And then they printed 35% of all dollars in the past 12 months. Like, imagine what that's going to look like for the next 30 years.
But our inflation rate is sub 2%.
Dude.
Tim. Of course it is.
So the point that you're making is, don't like oh hey, I don't want debt, I don't want to. The way that you combat this crazy amount of inflation that's going to happen is you finance the shit out of everything, right?
Yeah, because
I put as much debt as I
inflation-
possibly can on everything right now because
Inflation kills cash.
right. So
And-
like if you put debt on it and don't pay it off early, don't make additional payments. Hey, I don't want debt. I just want to sort of free and clear. I get it, and there's, depending on where you are with your life and where you are with your goals and your your peace of mind of having that's okay. But from an economic standpoint, it makes sense to extend it out as much as possible and pay for that property with future dollars that are worth 20 cents on the dollar of what today's dollars are. You're getting an 80% discount.
And
on
let's
the
be
property
clear,
value.
I think that's the only way the government is. I mean, look, our debt as a country is unpayable.
Yep, not gonna happen.
Unless they inflate the dollar to the point where they're going to do the same thing. There's no other way out. There's not enough. We don't create enough GDP. They could tax all of it. We don't create enough GDP to fund all of these unfunded liabilities that the government has. And so, we are going to have inflation. We're already having it. I mean, guys, if you don't think, if anybody listening thinks we don't have it, just remember what you paid for groceries last year and now go to the grocery store and really pay attention. You can't go to the grocery store without spending $100.
No way.
I mean, we go there for like a handful of things and we've spent $150 every freaking time.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Look what gas has done. Look at all of the things that you use, and then you have to realize that all of those things, they strategically take them out of the figures, so that, and they manipulate it a whole bunch of other ways too. But it's one of the main ways that they manipulate it.
Yep.
Because everybody knows you go to the grocery store, it costs more.
Yep.
It's substantially
Yep.
more.
Yep.
Good hell, look at lumber.
Yep. I mean, look at
Don't get me started on
look at
freaking
real estate.
lumber.
Look at everything, man. Everything's going up in prices, and it's not appreciate. I mean, some of it might be appreciation. It's true demand for the market, but it's also crazy amounts of inflation.
Yep. And so what do? You buy assets that track, and we know, I mean, if you actually take a look at rent rates actually track with appreciation. They have to. Or with inflation.
Yep.
Because they have to, right? So where do you want to be? You want to have an asset that you're paying for with future dollars that are worth considerably less. So you're paying less for your asset.
Yep.
Somebody else is buying it for you. Your tenants are buying it for you.
Yep.
And their payments track and give you cash that is tracking with inflation.
Yep.
Right?
I love it, man. It's a beautiful thing. What other businesses do you see that do that? Are there other businesses that you've seen that do? What do you think about all these?
Nothing does it as well as real estate does. And the
agree.
reason is because you have to figure that in addition to the tax benefits. You got the principal pay down, you have appreciation, you have cash flow, you have all of these returns. And if anybody's owned real estate over time that was an investment type of real estate, you take those 4 returns. When you actually finally cash out, or you cash out refinance, and you actually get that money and you look at what your return was, I don't know of another investment that does that. I don't know of another one.
I agree. What do you think about all the talk about getting rid of 1031 exchanges, getting rid of long-term capital gains?
I think that I don't know. Like, if I say negative things about the government, will they play this on Facebook? Because I don't know if they will or not. I already said COVID.
Yeah.
Hell, you're going to get like a banner on your.
This might freeze my account.
Look, the reality of the situation is that we have a Congress, a government, and a bureaucracy full of rich bastards. They have enormous amounts of net worth. And every time they talk about fundamentally transforming the tax code, they do it to screw the middle class and screw poor people and to increase their ability to transfer, keep, and grow wealth.
Yep.
Only thing that we need to do is figure out what they've done to better themselves and then do that. Mm-hmm. So, do I think they're going to change any of that? Maybe. But whatever they do, there will be another loophole that is better than the last one, because these guys are not going to do anything that is going to cost them money.
Yep.
Period. Hard stop.
Yep.
And it is so disingenuous for these billionaires to come out, like Warren Buffett, all these guys, and they come out, well, I should pay more taxes than my secretary. So what do? They go in there and they help craft these really aggressive tax laws that are really going to stick it to the man. And then what do? They stick it to the secretary because they don't get taxed on ordinary income. And they have all of this wealth. And all they do is they go, okay, we're going to tax this type of income. So now I'm going to transfer all of my wealth into creating this other type of income that's taxed less over here. They do it every single time. It's the most disingenuous thing on the planet. And all they're doing, really. Do you remember when you were a kid and it was either a girls' clubhouse or a boys' clubhouse? It was up in a tree and they pull the ladder up so that the rest of the people who weren't in the club couldn't get in the club?
Yep.
That's all they do.
Yep.
They sit around and they make these laws to pull the ladder up and screw everybody else from being able to get into their club. That's what they're doing. So, if you want to be in their club, what you've got to do is you've got to learn what the secret knock is. You got to get them to drop the stupid letter back down so that you can actually climb back up into the... There's always a way to get up there. But I find it completely disingenuous that they talk this big game. Increase the tax rate to 44% on earned income. You and I aren't going to pay that on our property.
Doesn't affect me.
And it doesn't affect them either. The ones who are screaming the loudest about it is so disingenuous.
Yeah.
And I wish somebody with some authority would actually get out there and say, and call them for the BS that actually is.
Yep.
And say, let's see the 44% that you paid on your $500 million that you made last year. Let's see it, because I guarantee you didn't.
Yep. Dude, and at the end of the day, like, there will be other loopholes or other ways to capitalize on the tax code, capitalize on these opportunities. At the end of the day, man, like, if you own assets, though, you could just throw more debt on it. Just never sell, right? Just refinance it every 15 years, equity strip it, and then go roll that money forward into more assets.
So what does it do if they get rid of the 1031 stepped up basis? Well, my life's not even halfway over. Right? I mean, I'm going to live to 100, at least 105.
At least
105. So when I die, I've got 50 years for somebody to fix what the morons up there are doing right now.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out. Nobody knows for the next 50 years anyway. All I can do today is plan for what I know is going to happen.
Yep.
And then I pivot every time they change something.
Yep.
Right? It's the same thing like when Trump passed the tax law that allows us to write off more depreciation, the bonus depreciation and everything on apartments.
Yep.
What did I do? What did you do?
Yep. Like contact the CPA. What are we doing here?
Hey,
let's go.
Tell me how this works.
Yep.
It's the same thing when they passed the opportunity zones. There was a flood of information out there. Everybody was trying to learn how it works. It's the same thing. Whatever they do, It'll be the same thing. If you have a really good CPA, they're going to be out there aggressively trying to figure out what the heck it is, and then they're going to help you implement it.
Yep.
And that's what we were talking about before. They have to be on your team. You have to have a good CPA. They're just a necessity of how to do it. And then you have to make sure that your tax people that are setting up all of your structures understand what's going on with the tax code so that you can take advantage of both of those things. It's all of the team. Like we were talking about at the beginning of this whole conversation. It all goes back to team.
What would you say if somebody couldn't afford a CPA or couldn't afford to put that team together? What's the best way to get the information?
That's not true. Well, okay, so if you can't afford to sit down with the CPA, it's a funny thing nowadays. People like us will sit down and talk about it. Well, guess what? I mean, there's a few CPAs who are not boring that you could actually listen to.
Yeah.
And you would seek them out and then just absorb everything they have. Good Lord, there's countless books out there written about things that they've never taken away, right?
And the reality is, it's like, you can't not afford to hire the CPA to capitalize on some of these things.
Like, get the information.
You're going to be spending a lot more money on taxes than you ever would hiring a CPA to
100%.
get your structure set up.
100%. So if you are a person out there who's brand new, you've not made the money yet, go educate yourself for free, because you can nowadays. I mean, when I started, I actually went to the courthouse and looked at microfiche in my hometown, right? Nobody has to do that today. Mm-hmm. And there's tons of information out there for free, like this, right?
Yep.
So seek it out, learn, become a student of what it is that you're doing. And then, once you've actually made a buck and you have to pay taxes on it, you're right, you go pay the CPA, because if you don't, you're gonna pay more taxes.
I like that. Cross that bridge when you get there, kind of a thing.
If I have, let's just say that the CPA costs me the same as my tax bill, I'd rather give the money to the CPA than the government.
Dude, this video is 100% getting flagged, by the way. 100%. All right, dude, we went.
What did we say my name was at the beginning?
Jason Medley.
Yeah.
So,
ouch.
All right, we went real heavy on real estate, real heavy on the tactical side of things there. I want to step back and spend the last, 10 minutes talking about lifestyle by design. You hit on this at the very beginning. Obviously, dude, you rode your motorcycle in, you're working out, you're, you got a beautiful home. You're still looking at buying on the beach? Maybe?
Once the market starts to go, I'm not paying $6 million. No way.
Dude, I'll sell you my house for 5.5.
Right. I looked at your house for what you bought. There's no way. But you've done a lot to it, man. It's so nice now.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, like, you want the look. It's very hard to go and pay retail price for a property when you're an investor, right? When you're an investor mindset. So I went and found, like, the location is unbelievable. The views are unbelievable. I think it's the best views on Isle of Palms, actually.
I agree with that, because the sunset over there would have to be amazing.
It's unreal. So,
well, I know it is, because we've actually driven there and stood on the bridge to watch the sunset.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's nice,
and but the house was beat up. We put a ton of money into it, but it's worth probably $1.5 million more than what I bought it. Or what I'm into it for right now, just because of and it's only been 1.5 years.
Yeah, it's insane.
It is. It's wild.
So yes, eventually, nowhere anytime soon.
But you're talking earlier about, like, designing your businesses so that way they don't affect your time, they don't affect your family. You got how many kids do you have? 4?
3.
3 kids, and you're traveling, doing all that stuff. Like, what does your process look like to design your week and your goal setting and all that kind of stuff? Like,
so I think it's really important to have a clear personal vision. Everybody spends so much time designing their business and designing, their goals for income and their goals for everything, except for their personal life. Nobody actually sits down and says, what do I actually want my life to look like? And when I did that, it was really hard for me, because my life was my business. And I think that's not unique in the entrepreneur space, especially with what's taught right now, right? Grind, work your face off, and so that you can have all this cool stuff. Well, dude, I did that for 7 years. And then I had a pretty rough partnership divorce, and I had to pay to leave. And I didn't get anything.
Yep.
I literally was starting over from zero in 2012. And that was a wake-up call for me, man. I mean, it was like, okay, I just gave away 7 years of my life. I missed birthdays. As a matter of fact, in my phone, I missed a birthday. I missed my daughter's birthday one time because I was out speaking like I was always doing. And I thought that you could celebrate a birthday on another day and it's no big deal. That's not true. That's not true. It's just not true. I still have in my phone, she put her birthday in my phone and she said, this is important. It's all caps. This is an important day. So, you want to get real for a second, dude?
Yeah, man.
When I lost everything and my family coalesced around me, and my team did too, and we rebuilt, it was that time when I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to build businesses back. And I'm going to have to work really hard for a few months here because I'm at zero. Mm-hmm. But after that, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm just not going to do it anymore. It's not worth it. There are way, way more important things. So how do you do it? Well, you sit down and you decide what you want your life to look like. And we decided that we wanted to live by the beach. Mm-hmm. And you already know this, and everybody who's ever set goals and hit goals knows, if you actually write down your vision, your brain will automatically try to figure out how to get that vision. It's crazy. It is crazy.
It is. It's weird.
And it's not some big foo-foo like, chi and all those other, it's not like that. It is just that your brain is very creative at problem solving. Mm-hmm. And if you give it the proper problem to solve, it will solve it. And so, what did I want my life to look like? I wanted my life to look like I could spend time with my kids and my wife whenever I wanted, not on a schedule. If my wife comes in and I'm working on something and she says, hey, you want to go to lunch? Yes, I do. Shut the laptop. I do want to go to lunch. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to go. If we want to pick up and leave this weekend, I can pick up and leave this weekend. I don't have anything that ties me except for my dogs.
How did you design that? Like, if somebody is working in their business and they can't just do it, well, what about the client? What about the deal? What about, like, how do I walk away from that and not be able to...
Well, we talked about it at the beginning. It's really hard for an A-type person is to give up any kind of control of things. And what I realized through the help of a whole bunch of people in mastermind groups was, hey, look, I have people who work on this team, and they are way more capable than I give them credit for. So let's create an atmosphere where I can offload pieces of the business until the piece that I have left is the piece I'm really good at, which is visionary. The visionary can leave for 30 days.
Yeah.
The fundamentals of the business still move forward. Mm-hmm. Here's the other key. As you're a business owner, once you've created that piece, right, so the business can run by itself, it's important that you also empower your team members to build the same kind of life. Like, when my assistant goes on vacation, well, right now that's my wife, so that's not fair. Pick somebody else in the company. If my escrow person goes on vacation for a week, we've cross-trained so that she can literally go on vacation. Mm-hmm. She can unplug and go have her perfect life too. As a business owner, if you're the only person who gets to go play golf, something's wrong.
Yeah.
You cannot take advantage of your team like that.
Yep.
They need to be able to go and have fun and decompress and be with their families. If that's what you want, you really should want that for your people too. Yep. So how do you do it? It takes some time. You have to make some money, but then you have to invest some of that money in people who can multiply that dollar that you're paying them, right? They have to be able to multiply that dollar. If they can multiply the dollar, well, now you've got something. Now you just need to do that again and again, and you take all the pieces of your business, you map it out into an accountability chart where everyone has a seat, right? And in the beginning, when you map that process out, you may be sitting in every freaking seat on your chart. But it's amazing, again, when you actually create the picture of how your company operates, you'll figure out ways to solve this. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing in your personal life. How do I pick up and leave Utah and move to the other side of the country and have my business still run? Well, I had already created this system that runs. I don't need to sit in an office with all of those people. As a matter of fact, I shut my office down. We went 2.5 years before COVID, we went completely virtual because we didn't need to have an office. And I moved, and I can leave, and people on my team can leave, and everything continues to operate because of the systems that we put in place on purpose to make it so that it's that way.
Do you specifically like time block time for family, time block time for you, or is it just kind of like it's an understanding where if you're in the office and somebody walks in, they want to go do something, then you drop what you're doing, you're able to go out and do it.
Yeah. So like if somebody says, "Hey, Ron, you want to go play golf?" Sure. I mean, if I'm in town, I'll go play golf. There's almost nothing that I can't do on the golf course that I can do sitting in my office. Mm-hmm. I mean, if something is melting down at my office, literally what am I going to be able to do about it?
Yeah.
I can make some phone calls and direct people
you actually
to
feel
do
better
whatever
about it being on a golf course and dealing with that problem.
I just don't.
Better state of mind.
And here's the other crazy thing. I have most of my office is made up of stay-at-home moms, right? Their schedule has to operate a little bit on a fluctuation because they have kids.
Yep.
They have to drive to school. They have to, if they've got a brand new one, I mean, good Lord, but we can work through all that. We can navigate all that because we've built something that I don't really care what hours you work in the day. I just care that the work gets done. And what that does is allows them to make a lot of money where most people would not even give them the flexibility to work at all.
Right.
Well, that's how I like my life, and that's what I've done for my team. So it works really, really well for stay-at-home moms.
How do you differentiate
flexibility?
How do you differentiate? Let's say it is time for you to hunker down and say, hey, I got to get this deal to the finish line. I got to sign the closing docs. I got to do this, do that, whatever. And then, your kid comes in and says, hey, Dad, let's go grab lunch in the middle of the day on a Tuesday. Or your wife comes in and says, hey, let's go out to the beach. But you got to get that stuff done. Is there a delineation between, hey, here's my business hours and here's my family time kind of a thing? Or
no? Well,
you'll
no.
just drop all the time.
No, other than that in the evening, I pretty much don't do business.
Agreed. Yeah.
So they know that evening time is their time.
Yep.
Number one. And in the morning is my time. And the great thing is I live on the East Coast, so nobody really interrupts me in the morning ever.
Yeah.
So that's great anyway. Most everything comes in the afternoon. And everybody knows that. So if we want to go to the beach, generally we just go in the morning.
Yeah. So you sort of time block a little bit.
If I have to do a deal, generally speaking, I've already told my wife, hey, look, I'm going to be busy for the next few days because I've got to close this deal.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it. And then I just close the deal. But
setting
it's
proper
3 days.
expectations.
It's not like what I see entrepreneurs doing is they go, well, it's just 3 days, but 3 days turns into 3 months, which turns into 3 years, and they never freaking stop. And then they wonder why they got divorced.
Yep.
It's because you didn't pay any attention to your family.
Yep.
That's why you got divorced. It's not that complicated.
Yep.
The business is not worth it. So if I have I'm at a point in my life right now where I don't actually need that deal, number one, right? So if it's between my wife has had it and I need to go do something with my wife and I'm going to close this deal, I don't need the deal anymore.
Yeah.
But if I'm starting out...
losing that deal is a lot less painful than losing your wife, right? So it's like, let's go spend time with this family.
And if you're an entrepreneur out there who doesn't understand love just yet, then it's a financial mistake anyway, right?
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I mean that's a really stupid move as a business owner anyway. But look, there's been several things that have happened in my life personally that have made me look at things entirely different. I value time now more than I value money.
That's a big takeaway for me out of this is how you, just the philosophy of I worked my tail off for 7 years and it was left with nothing. Like it's an eye opener.
Yeah, and that So my family in that time, so I had a choice, right? I mean, I lost everything, and it like when you get gut punched like that after working that hard from somebody you thought was your friend, like after that kind of a gut punch, I actually was contemplating going and getting a job, like not doing, like, because I had just gotten beat up. And it was and you know, this all happened at Christmas, so I got to go in and tell my kids, hey, you know, the Christmases that you're used to ain't gonna happen this year. And my family was just like, look, Dad, you're gonna crush it. You know, you need to go do this thing, and we're behind you 100%. And then
That's
my
awesome.
team, the same thing, we're behind you 100%. That coalesces everybody in it, and it just made me understand, A, how much I care and appreciate them, B, how much I have not shown them that over the last 7 years, and that I'm not going to freaking do that to them anymore. There's no amount of money that's worth it, right? And so I think what business owners don't understand, like every time you make a decision about closing the deal or about starting this other business over here, in order to do this, you have to give something else up. And you have to decide. That's why I said the personal vision is so important, because you have to be clear on this so that you can check yourself against this piece, right? Okay, if I'm going to do a startup, everybody knows what that means. That's no joke. So when I actually went and sat down with my wife and I said, hey, look, I've got this software thing, and I think this is a big deal. I think this is like family office money kind of big deal. But I got to know that you got to understand this is a startup. And you remember what that means, right? And she said, yes. We consciously made a decision as a family to chase this a little bit, which is why she's helping me too for a little while, to just make sure this thing has legs. And at the same time, the whole time I'm building this, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, how can I build this? Who do I need on my team that can help me build this so that I can keep my time? And the crazy thing is, even though this is a startup, I really haven't altered my schedule that much. And the only reason that's happening is because my brain is tied to this personal vision that I have, and I'm going, okay, I do need this to happen, but I don't have to do it. Who can I get to do this function over here? And if I don't have the money in the company right now to pay them, how can I creatively make this a win-win for us, so that everybody can get into this deal? We can all make money together and make this thing grow, and I don't have to sacrifice my family life to make this happen. I would never have asked those questions if I didn't have this personal vision already written down, and I didn't know what I wanted my life to look like. I would have asked completely different questions. And that's the problem with entrepreneurs, is that they only think business all the time.
Yep. Dude, it's a powerful piece to end on, man. I appreciate that. Tons of insight, tons of respect for you, what you built, man.
Likewise,
and
my friend.
Not only on the business side, but from a family perspective and your health and all those things, man. Just honored to have friendship with you, bud.
Likewise.
Dude,
thanks for
appreciate
inviting
you being
me.
here, man.
Appreciate it.
I hope you guys got a ton of takeaways from that. There's things that I took notes on about things that Ron said that I'm going to take back to the drawing board of my own business. If this was helpful for you, do me a favor. Just like it. Hit the little notification bell so you guys see the next Spill the Beans episode. We're going to try to have these things out for you guys every single Sunday. And share this, right? If you know somebody who would get a ton of value out of this, please do me a favor. Share it with them. Help spread the wealth. Help spread the knowledge. They're going to get a ton of insights out of it too. So appreciate you. Love you. Be your best. See you next time.